Llama 3, at least some versions of it, are reportedly coming this week. Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. Today we kick off with the most anticipated drop of this week. Now, of course, this being AI, who knows what might get released? But one thing that we do know for sure is that it appears that some of the smaller versions of Meta's forthcoming Llama 3 models should be coming out this week. This news was first reported last Monday by The Information. They had it from a Meta employee that Meta was going to launch 2 small versions of its 3rd generation open source Llama network, which would precede the large version to be released later in the summer. While initially a Meta spokesperson declined to comment, the next day at a public event, Meta made it seem like yes, these models were coming and they were coming very soon. This is exciting to the AI community for a couple of different reasons. First of all, Meta has made it clear that their objectives when it comes to Llama 3 have shifted. While previously they seemed, at least for the time, content to be state-of-the-art when it came to open source models, Llama 3 they've promised to be a GPT-4 class model at least, and indeed Zuckerberg has said that going forward, they want Llama models to be able to compete at the state-of-the-art in general, not just for open source. That, of course, makes the big release the largest version that would come out in the summer, but there's still reasons that people are really excited about even these smaller versions. A couple big ones. One, of course, is cost. Smaller models tend to be cheaper, and a lot of what's going on in AI development right now is arbitrage between cost and performance, given how expensive the most advanced state-of-the-art models are. But there's also differences in where small models can run. If you're looking to build, for example, mobile device applications that don't necessarily rely on the cloud, or AI PC applications, once again, that don't have to rely on Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, advances in smaller models actually matter more than state-of-the-art when it comes to LLMs. The 3 versions of Llama 2 that we got had 7 billion parameters, 13 billion parameters, and the largest had 70 billion parameters. And The Information has previously reported that the largest version of Llama 3 could have more than 140 billion parameters. Anticipation is heating up. Hyperride AI CEO Matt Schumer says, Llama 3s will start to drop next week. Assuming there's a 7B version, I'm expecting it to far surpass the current Mistral model. Now, something I've said on this show before is that up until Mistral started releasing its models, Meta was the undisputed open source champ in terms of dominating where developer attention was. With the release of Mistral models, they definitely started to suck some of the oxygen out of Meta's room, and so this is a chance for Meta both to reclaim that open source space, but also to try to push into the general LLM performance space as well. Next up, something at the intersection of AI and geopolitics. One of the big questions right now in US policy is whether TikTok is going to be outright banned, or as many are advocating, forced into a sale to a US-owned company for the US-facing version. One of the people who is trying to orchestrate that type of deal is Steven Mnuchin, former Treasury Secretary under Donald Trump. According to the New York Post, quote, insiders say Mnuchin is pitching a plan to rebuild TikTok's algorithm in the US as the only likely way to satisfy congressional concerns that the app poses a national security risk, as well as China's strict export laws that could block a sale. So basically where we are with this situation is that the House has voted to pass a bill that requires ByteDance to divest TikTok within 6 months or face a total ban, but the devil is going to be in the details. ByteDance doesn't want to give away its proprietary algorithms, even if that's a lot of where the value lies. And so trying to get it ahead of that, Mnuchin and his consortium are trying to find an AI partner that could rebuild that particular capacity. One partner that has been mentioned, although not necessarily in this context, is Oracle. Even before the ban push reached its recent apex, TikTok had committed to storing the data of US and servers operated by Oracle in order to try to head off those issues. This isn't the first time that an Oracle TikTok hookup has been discussed. During the Trump administration, when Mnuchin was Treasury Secretary, Oracle almost bought TikTok then as part of that administration's push to get ByteDance to divest as well. Now, on top of all the concerns and issues with China, another big question is what's going to clear regulatory scrutiny, particularly when it comes to antitrust. One of the reasons that an Oracle might be a better candidate than someone like Google, Meta, or Apple is, in fact, those antitrust considerations. All of this is very weird, uncharted territory, and frankly has been for some time. Back in 2020, when Microsoft tried to buy TikTok in a similar context, CEO Satya Nadella later said that the aborted bid was, quote, the strangest thing I've ever worked on. Now, over in Adobe land, a bunch of new announcements today. First of all, Adobe Acrobat has released an AI assistant that starts at $5 a month. This is basically PDF intelligence as a service. Now, given how popular PDF reading type features were in the early ChatGPT App Store, it makes sense that Adobe's trying to grab a piece of that for itself, given that it owns the core PDF reader in Acrobat. Additionally, however, Adobe announced that generative AI is coming to Premiere Pro. This is, of course, its video editing software, which is hugely used across basically every industry that touches video at all. Now, in addition to Adobe's proprietary Firefly models coming into Premiere Pro in the same way that they have in software like Photoshop, Adobe also surprised by announcing that it was developing a way for users to integrate third-party tools from companies like Runway, Pika Labs, and OpenAI. The details have not yet been figured out. Adobe said that they haven't settled how revenue generated by third-party AI tools would be split up between Adobe and outside developers, but the fact that they're announcing this at all suggests they're at least a little bit nervous about competition from these new generative AI video tools and want to keep everything in their ecosystem. This is a good distraction from the end of last week, when Bloomberg reported that despite a lot of hemming and hawing about their ethical approach to Firefly training, which was sort of pitched on the idea that Adobe was only training their models on images that they had rights to, it seems as though Firefly was also trained on Midjourney images, which of course, if you're concerned about where Midjourney images are coming from, kind of just seems like the AI data training equivalent of money laundering. Still, mostly I am just excited to see in-painting come into video editing, and so I, for one, am excited to see what Premiere Pro does with AI. That's going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. Next up, the main AI Breakdown.